Say it with me: home ownership, home ownership, home ownership. Can we talk about home ownership? So, welcome if you're just joining us. My name is Dr. Deidre Moss. I'm an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. I want to talk about a very important topic today, that being home ownership. Many Bahamians dream about owning a home, but navigating the real estate market might be challenging for novice home buyers. But we're here to help. I've invited Mr. Mark Sweeting of One Oak, Bahamas, who will help me to dissect this topic. So I want to pass the virtual mic to him so that he can introduce himself.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Deidre Moss, thank you so much for the invitation. I look forward to sharing some value for your audience. I created a video some time ago where it talks about when you and I were children. One of our favorite games, especially for boys, was Dolly House, and I talk about, even as we were children, we appreciated that a important part of the family dynamic was a house, and so home ownership is very, very important, and is very, very challenging. And so, us having this discussion hopefully will bring some value to the people listening.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if you want to touch a little bit about your background, but we'll get into that. But before we begin, if you're just tuning in from our social page and you just join us, like and share this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links on our page. If there's something that you think we should be talking about, feel free to let us know. We do want to hear from you. Let us know if you would like to advertise on our platform or sponsor our program. And with that, let's get into our talk. So, we're talking about home ownership today. And like I said, I invited Mr. Matt Sweeting because you have such an extensive background in real estate. And so I just want you to touch a little bit and share just a little bit about your background.
Yeah, certainly. So, nearly 2 decades in real estate now. I've served real estate predominantly in New Providence, but all throughout the Bahamas, and as well predominantly our local market. And so, over the last 2 decades, I've served people like you and I who are looking to find home, I call it. And so, we've done very, very well in that. Over the last few years, I work now at an agency called One Oak Bahamas, where 99% of our transactions is the local market. And we've probably done upwards of 500 transactions and well over $10 million in sales. And so we've become very, very good at helping Bahamians find home.
Thank you so much. And to those who may be joining us, please feel free to add your comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to share your questions and commentary in the video so we can get to them. And so first question is, you talk about preparing for home ownership. And so given the current landscape in the real estate market, how should Bahamians prepare themselves for home ownership?
Yeah. So one of the things I always advocate for is that the first place that you should start is education, right? You need to know where and what to do, right? If I wanted to buy a jet right now, where do people even buy jets, right? How much do jets cost? How do people finance jets? Which banks are going to finance jets? Let's bring it home. You need to start asking the question, what kind of properties do me and my family want? If I know that I have a growing family, we plan to have more children, I'm about to get married, all of those things need to be factored in. How long does the bank require me to be on the job? How much of a salary do I need to make for the average real estate property now that's in a neighborhood that I feel right raising a family in? Do I need a lawyer? What kind of lawyer? How much are those fees? How much money do I need to have in savings? And so all of those questions could be answered through a real estate agent, but by extension, even on our website, we created a lot of content around the buying process on our website called majorkey.com. And that's MAJORCAY. So the answer is education is step number one. You really need to find out as much information as you can about the process so that you know the direction that you're going.
Thank you for sharing that. And so we know that everybody may not be able to, I guess, qualify for maybe the traditional type of home buying. So some persons, or for whatever reason, some persons they may opt for purchasing repossessed housing. So even with that said, with the risk involved, what are, your thoughts about purchasing a repossessed home?
Repossessions offer a great opportunity for people to get what I might consider deep discounts on real estate, right? I particularly favor properties that are developed already because I think that there's a bit of a discount built into it being a developed property. Construction costs are a lot more than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And oftentimes, when a property is derelict or repossessed, there's a motivation on either behalf of the seller, or if that seller is a bank, they're motivated to get that property off the books. And so, when you look at replacement costs, oftentimes for repossessed properties, what you're actually getting is a discount on what the property could actually be valued if you had to reconstruct it today. And so I like repossessions as an option, but there is some challenges. What are the cons? Well, the cons are it's very, very challenging to engage with financial institutions in the sale of their property, right? There's usually a bidding process that's not very clear and varies from institution to institution on how the process actually works. They're not direct lines of communication. You might have to email bids at bankofbank.com, whatever it is, right? And you got to wait to hear back, and you keep your fingers crossed that they might get back to you. And oftentimes, when they get back to you, the property is already gone. One of the things that's been established now is the Homeowners Protection Act, which makes it, which frustrates the buyer market even more. It's a good thing for sellers and people who are going through hard times and from a financial perspective, but it makes it very, very difficult for buyers in this market because the property that's being advertised today, well, you could bid on it today, but you can't see inside of it. You don't know what the inside looks like until you're making blind bids. And so, from a repossession, there are some cons because you could get great pricing, but it's a very, very challenging process.
I definitely. And when we look at traditional home buying, how what are your what are your thoughts on the pros and cons? And I know you touched a little bit about it, but the pros and cons versus purchasing a home traditionally versus obtaining government housing or obtaining again repossessed housing. What are your views on that?
Yeah, yeah. And so if we were to match the three up against each other, traditional purchasing, we're buying from an independent and private seller versus repossessed versus government, they all have their pros and cons, and it's on a case by case basis of which one of those might favor you and your particular situation. The pros of government housing is that oftentimes the government's incentivizing or subsidizing some of those costs. And so a lot that might have been 100,000, well, the government might offer it at 15. And a house that on the open market that might have been 300,000, well, you could probably get it from the government at 175. And so the con with government housing is that, again, and I haven't dig deep into it, and I say this, take what I say with a grain of salt, but the frustrations I've heard from independent buyers and people who have applied for government housing is that you never know when you can hear back. There's no clear process on how the process actually works. Where am I on the list of people who would have applied? How soon do I look to hear back, and which house am I going to get? And so, because there's obscurity or not enough clarity in the process of obtaining a government home, it really makes it speculative for people who might be having the ambition of getting married. I want to secure my future. You can't plan on a government house because you don't know when that could happen. And so, the most direct route that you could guarantee is a traditional housing purchase because it reduces those variables, those guesses, right? We know that if you are qualified and you have your savings in place, that we could go out and we could find a property today that you could purchase today. Those other options of purchasing adds a little bit too many variables and questions in the purchasing process.
Definitely, definitely. And so, for persons who may not fully understand the process, because some of us, we like we may literally be, coming, we may literally be coming into the home buying situation with little to no knowledge. So in your view, what are the top three things that people, and in this case more specifically, Bahamians can do to financially prepare for home ownership?
Great question. I would suggest that they get a consultation from some a company that we've worked very very closely with. The company is called Druber Solutions, and for anyone that might be making notes here, I'll spell it. It's DWDREWBER, Druber Solutions, and they're a financial consultancy. I would suggest having a consultation with them. This might cost you less than $100. You want to sit down with someone. Maybe you print out 3 months of bank statements just to identify where is the money that you're making going. How can I reduce my spending to the greatest degree, increase my savings as much as possible? And I think alternatively, we did an event maybe a couple of years ago called Starting a Side Hustle 101, because after we've, one of the services that we provide internally is we help people determine how much they're qualified for. We work closely with the banks. And so we math that a banker would use to determine what you're qualified for. And after reviewing over 400 applications, we appreciate that Bahamians, because of the cost of living, we just ain't making enough money. Um, and so what the thought is that every Bahamian needs to think of right now is, what else can I do? Okay, you got a 9 to 5, you have something that's a primary source of income, but what else are you doing in your, we call it your 5 to 9, to make additional money so that you could reach your housing objectives and your financial objectives as well. And so, yeah, I think some of the things that they could do is, you need to minimize your spending to the greatest degree, increase savings, and in addition to that, you need to figure out what skills and talents could I do alternatively to make more money.
Okay, so first, reach out to financial consultant. Second,
Start to figure out, how can I reduce my spending. That might be food.
spending.
Yeah, it might be food, it might be extracurricular activities, it may be a number of subscriptions that you aren't actually using right now that's eating hundreds of dollars from your account every month. And so things of that nature, you need to try to tighten up as much as possible.
And third,
And third, you need to figure out, what else can I do as a side hustle to generate more income.
okay, so that's
And,
see
and let me just add,
financial.
let me
Go
add
ahead.
to that. You want to compound
Mm-hmm.
that with meeting with your banker, because oftentimes many self-employed people are not banking properly. What that means
Mm,
is that you are treating your, first of all, you may not even have a business license. And if you have a business license, you may not have a business account for that company. And
mm,
let's assume you have both of those. What you may not be doing is sending all of the company income to that business bank account and
mm,
paying yourself a salary religiously, right? A
mm,
lot of self-employed people find this challenging. We may be getting paid in cash, we may be
mm,
getting paid in cash, and we just paying expenses out of our cash that we're holding. The bank, when you sit with them and said, "Hey, I want to purchase this home and I have additional income," well, they need to see consistency. They need to see the company
mm.
account getting consistent money, and they need to see you as the buyer
Oh, okay.
being paid from that company account on a consistent
Mm-hmm.
basis.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. So let's going back over those again. Financial consultant, be mindful of the spending habits, and then I guess additional income hustle, having a side hustle but additional income, or I guess sometimes people call it passive income.
Hmm.
And then the for self-employed individuals, you should have that record, that financial record of
Yes,
consistency.
absolutely.
Mm, okay. Very interesting. So we moved to well, Nikki Williams made a comment. She said this is a very good topic, especially in this economy. Thank you,
Mhm.
Nikki, for sharing. I think Nikki, you are from Trinidad and Tobago. So if you have any insight, if you want to plug anything and share what is the real estate market like in your country, I would love to. We would love to get your take. Um, but moving along to our fast talk segment, and we usually we give our guests 60 seconds to answer each question, and
Okay.
so I I know you'll be good for this. So first question: is home ownership attainable for the average Bahamian?
Homeownership is attainable for the average Bahamian. When I was thinking about this question, I think about some of the clients that we're representing right now. And so just today we met with a waitress. We met with someone who
Mm,
works at Superwash, right? A teacher, someone who works as a janitor. And so when I think about the gamut of clients that we're working with now, these are average Bahamians, right? These are everyday Joes who are being very, very disciplined about savings, learning what they need to do about home ownership, and making it happen. Yes, it is attainable.
okay. What is the minimum amount that a person should have on their account when seeking home ownership?
So, to make a real estate purchase happen in the Bahamas, we first need to look at what is the average sales price. And to get a home, entry level price for a home, considering the renovation that might be included, we're looking at minimum 250,000. To make a purchase like that happen, you need in excess of $15,000 in your savings account.
Okay. What comes first, the wedding or the home?
That's a good one. My colleague and I talked about this quite a bit, and this is a toss up, and it's a case by case basis, right? Does the wedding or does the home come first? I think I think the wedding might come first. The wedding might come first because again, when we think about the dynamic that we're in Nassau right now, housing is extremely challenging to afford. And so we talk about a grown man who been abstinent. The man might have been on a journey of abstinence for a minute, and, and if he waiting on a house to get the marriage, man, boy, you're adding an additional challenge to that man. And so I would say, listen, put your woman in a home that could be a rental home, a rental property. But I would say marriage comes first.
Okay. So, what's the better investment, an Airbnb or rentals?
Yeah, I think for many Bahamian professionals, an Airbnb, and I've experienced both ends of the spectrum. I think long-term rentals or traditional rentals is going to work best. Um,
Mm,
an Airbnb is a job in itself.
mm,
Just from my own experience, I'll tell you the moving parts that are involved. You're talking about receiving 2 to 3 communications per day for
mm.
people who've never been here. So they're asking the gamut of questions, right? Does it rain in the Bahamas, right? Do I need, could I walk everywhere I go? Everywhere throughout the country. They're thinking the island might be too small. I mean, the amount of questions you're getting are crazy. Then when the person gets it, you got to check them in, right? You have to make sure the property
Mm,
is ready. So you would have cleaned before. They're asking questions
mm,
during the year, during the time that they're here. So it's a job in itself. I
mm,
just don't think that the average Bahamian has the bandwidth to manage that. And then on
mm,
top of that, if you're looking for the rental income of your property to support your mortgage payment, Airbnb, while profitable, could be very volatile. Some months are
mm.
good, some months are
Okay.
bad. Are you in a financial position to fully pay the mortgage payment in months that you don't have any rentals at all potentially? And so I think for most Bahamians, the answer is long term.
Mm. Okay. Very, very insightful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And so we're coming down to the end of our program, but I want to ask you if there's any additional commentary that you would like to share, anything else that you would like to add that you think would be beneficial for those persons who they want to own a home. They have a goal of becoming a homeowner.
Yeah, I think is a recap and encapsulation of what we talked about, and maybe a year or two we created a piece, a case study called "Buy Now or Rent Forever," and in
Mm,
that study we showed how quickly Nassau real estate is appreciating, and
mm,
if you and I don't take these next few years serious while there's still
wow.
affordability, there's a likelihood that we might be forced to rent forever. And so I think
Mm,
people like us that are anywhere from 25 to 40 years old, in that age range, could be
mm,
younger, could be older,
mm-hmm.
we really need to take the time that we have now seriously and the things that we
Yeah.
discussed. Reduce spending, increase savings, and figure out additional skills that you can develop so that you could make additional income to reach your housing goals and objectives. And so, yeah, I really want us to appreciate as a Bahamian diaspora. Um, how do I take advantage of these next few years to make sure that I am not one of those people who are
Yeah.
renting forever?
Buy now or rent forever. Wow, that's
Hmm.
powerful.
Hmm. Hmm.
Very powerful. So, Mr. Max Sweeten, I want to thank you for spending your time with me today. I just reached out to you, and you were just, you were. Thank you so much. You were so accommodating, and so I just want to thank you specifically for accommodating me today. And I know that you're busy and you may have a lot of things that you're doing. And so I just want to thank you for being my guest today. And I just want to extend an invitation to you at any time, you're available and you want to talk about this topic, because this is a rolling, a continuous topic. This is real estate is
So you'll have me
definitely a
back on
major.
next week then.
Definitely. Whenever you're ready, you let me know.
I got you. I got you.
So thank you so
I,
much for your time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I appreciate the invitation. I think this topic around general topics on Can We Talk, I'd seen other pieces that you would produce. I think it's a great production. And so I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me to do this. And I think this topic, in addition to the other topics that you've done, are very well put together. And so thank you for your excellence.
Oh, thank you. Well, I didn't know you was coming through with a word today. Thank you for the word. Amen.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so we will end on that. But I am going to move into my motivational minute. But I am going to say goodbye to you, Mr. Matt Sweeting. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Okay. So this brings us to our motivational minute. And so this is our part of the session where we get to talk about motivation. And so let me bring that up. And again, if you are joining us and if you have any commentary, feel free to add your commentary on the video. We do want to hear from you. We do want to hear from you. So, this brings us to our motivational minute. And the motivational minute focuses on the thought that your qualifications are not your only assets. Your personality, your work ethic, your drive, your motivation, your persistence may open more doors for you than your qualifications ever could. Generally, people believe that sometimes the only passport to success is their degrees and the things that they've done to qualify themselves. And for the most part, that way of thinking may be fairly reasonable. And as an educator, I fully support anyone who wants to level up academically or anyone who wants to obtain educational prowess. However, what should also be understood is that our degrees or academic qualifications are not our only assets. Your charm, your wit, your courtesy, your work ethic, the way that you treat people, and your overall personality can also support your success and upward trajectory, just as your qualifications would. Make no mistake, you can still be qualified with a nasty attitude and still be rejected over an individual with less qualifications but more people skills. Nobody wants to be around a sour, toxic person, even if they're the most qualified in the room. People will be people at the end of the day, and people want to be around people who will bring the right energy to the room. So, yes, your qualifications are important, but so is your attitude. So, that brings us to the end of our motivational minute. So, this brings us to the end of our session. Thank you for tuning in and joining us in our talk today. I would like to thank our guest, Mr. Matt Sweeting, for sharing his insight with us today as we talked about home ownership. We want to remind you, if you want to advertise with us, let us know. You can also reach out to us through our page. Our contacts are there. We want to grow, so grow with us. To those watching via social media, thank you for listening in. Like our page for future notifications of upcoming talks. Comment under our videos, let us know your thoughts, and let us know what you want us to talk about. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Can We Talk? Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, using the addresses provided on our page. So, with that, that brings us to the end of our session. So, remember, let's think, talk,